Yes, Virgo.
Give it up for my girl, comedian GL Douglas.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Miss Shady.
Yes. Hi, GL. I am so happy you are here with me today. I said I got to get my girl GL Douglas up here
Thank you.
on my Shady Talk Wednesday podcast because I have been seeing you do so much. And I just wanted to talk to you about everything that you have going on. I want you to let the viewers know everything you have going on. I want to just talk about your comedy life,
Yes.
of course, your acting life, being a teacher with a sense of humor,
Yes.
being a mom of two,
Yes.
being a wife of a retired fireman. So
Yes.
just have so many amazing things in your pocket, and I just wanted to have you here today. So thank you so much for being here today with me on Shady Talk Wednesday.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited because I've been wanting to come up here for a minute. So finally our schedules aligned and we
Right.
were able to do it. And the weather was playing games. But I
Right.
was like, nope, we're going to go ahead and do this
Yes,
tonight.
we doing it tonight, and so we are here. So let's talk, GL. First of all, I see that you have been a teacher for 20 years.
Yes, 23 years to be
Wow.
exact. Been a
20
teacher for 23
Okay.
years. I went to school in North Carolina. Well, I'm a Jersey girl, but I
Okay.
went to college in North Carolina. I thought I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to deliver babies.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't quite work out. So I got my degree in elementary education,
Mm-hmm.
and I taught down there for about 2.5 years. And then I returned home. And I've been teaching in Jersey City now for 21 years.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how is it being a mom, being a teacher, and being a wife all at one time? Especially like having small children and you teach.
Yes.
You know, and then your husband, he's a retired fireman, so I'm not sure if he's just home. Is he
No,
fully
he's
retired?
working. He's retired from the fire department.
Okay.
But he still works. He's actually the head of maintenance.
Okay.
At a facility, and it's a lot. I'm not even gonna front. It is a lot. And I did it older in life.
Right.
All of my friends, they started young. College and everything like that. Right out of college, they had their children. They got married. For one, I wanted to just get to know who I was as a person. Not that comedy wasn't even on my radar, but I always just had a love and a passion for the arts.
Okay.
Before I got into comedy, I did a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I was a choreographer. I played the piano for a church. I started a singing group that ain't work out. People always said I had a pretty face. I tried full figure modeling, but I'm only 5'4", so
Okay.
I knew that wasn't going far.
Okay.
So I've never been afraid to take chances
Right.
and try.
Right.
And then if I don't like it, I just was like, all right, I'll do something else. You know what I mean? So I just left my 20s and 30s. I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really settle down until I had my first baby at 38 and my
Okay.
second one at 40.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and funny thing is, at 40, I literally got engaged, got married, bought a house. No, we already had the house. Had a baby all before I turned 41.
Oh, nice. Nice. Give it up. Can we get a round of applause for that? How special is that? Well, you know what? Being a Virgo, we are very energetic, motivated. We love to try to do things. We come up with these ideals. We are very, what's another word about us? We're very passionate about what we do. We're not afraid.
Right.
We love to take chances.
Right.
So all the things that you were saying that you started, you did some of those things. I can imagine it because that's just how we are
Right.
for the most part. With me knowing me as a Virgo and hearing some of the things that you kind of say that you've been into, because I've had my hands in the pots too with a
Right.
lot of different things too. And I think we do so much, sometimes we even forget because we started doing so many things and we're still spinning into so many things. So sometimes you be like, wait a minute, hold up. I forgot to tell you,
Right.
because that is just us. So when did you actually started getting into comedy? Because I heard you just say like comedy wasn't really on your map, basically.
Right.
So how did that get started?
Because like I was always like left side of the brain thinker, like in terms of like I said, I had a passion for the arts, but I had parents who were like, well, realistically, what are you going to do to sustain yourself, right?
Okay.
So that's where the degree came in and everything. And I was in North Carolina, and I'm really into my spirituality and everything like that. And I remember when I was in North Carolina, I was living in my own place. I was, I had a roommate, but I was good. I was good. Like my life was good. And I remember my pastor at the time, he was doing a whole series on purpose, right?
Okay.
Purpose, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? And he had us to read a book called Purpose Driven Life. And I was like, there's more for me, right? Like if I wanted to like live a life of mediocrity, then you stay here. But if you want more, you got to step out. You got to do something. So I moved back home into my parents' house.
Okay.
And I just knew, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew there was something that I needed to do here that I couldn't accomplish down there. Like my season down there was over and I had to start. And that's one thing, like you can't be afraid of the changing seasons in your life.
Right.
Because seasons will change.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And you got to go with it. If it's summer, you're not going to stay in your fur.
Right.
If it's winter, you're not going to stay in your swimsuit. You got to be able to change with the seasons.
Right.
And one night, so funny story, me and my friends, I grew up in Roselle, New Jersey. Shout out to Roselle.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, let's go to Mike's Tavern. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a bar person. But I just said it. And they was like, all right, let's go. We get there. There's this guy standing outside. And he's like, come to my open mic tomorrow. Got an open mic. And I said, okay. And I said, well, if I come to your open mic, are you going to let me do comedy? And he was like, well, are you a comedian? I had never did comedy before. And I was like, yup. I was like, yeah. He was like, so you're a comedian and you don't know who I am? And I was like, no. So he wrote his name and number down. And he was like, you go home, you find out who I am, you come to my open mic at Crossroads in Garwood. I'll give you 5 minutes. I said, all right. Well, his name was Bob Sumner.
Okay.
Anybody in the game knows Bob Sumner is actually one of the creators of Def Jam.
Okay.
And that's who I was standing there lying to about being a comedian. I had no clue.
Right.
I had no clue. That's why I am a firm believer that your steps are ordered, right?
Right.
So I go the next day, I walk in, Hamburger, and I remember seeing Hamburger on like television growing up. Like, and I was like, it's like, that's the guy I be seeing on TV. So he was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I'm going to sign up for the open mic. I was first on the list. They called my name. I did 5 minutes. The crowd laughed, and I was like, oh, snap, right? And Hamburger comes on after me. He was like, young lady, who are you? So many people in the building that want to know who you are. And I was like, I'm Georgette. Like, he was like, how long have you been doing comedy? I was like, this is my first time. He was like, yeah, right. You like those girls you meet in a club, you'd be like, I've never done this before. And I was like, seriously, I never did it before. He was like, well, there's a lot of people that want to meet you. And Regina King was sitting in the back of the club because she's very good friends with Bob. And she asked to meet me. And then so many people, Tina Graham, who, we know is the godmother of comedy. Salute to Raj G, who passed away. Everybody was in the building. Everybody was coming to me like, I need your card. And I'm like, I don't have a card. So me and my friends was just writing my number on napkins and giving it to him. And then people called me. I booked 5 shows that week.
Wow.
I mean, they weren't paid, but like 5 shows.
Now, could you remember what was some of your comedy that day? Like, because for me working with you and meeting you, I see that you can you're like the jack of all trades in some way.
Thank you.
In the comedy game. Like, I feel like you could do a little bit of this. You could rock with this crowd. You could do some of this. You could do some of that. But once again, shout out to us. We Virgo. So I already know how we kind of multitask. But for me, seeing you, like I said, I have seen you in different spaces of doing different comedy. So that night when you first did comedy, what would you consider your comedy that night? Was it clean comedy? Was it like what because I feel like now with being in a comedy lane, because I started off with hosting. I've done comedy within hosting. So now I'm kind of getting my feel in how comedy shows and comedy clubs and comedy stages are. So, and it just seems like, you know, you see certain comics or certain places, everybody does comedy a little different.
Right.
I don't know if are you supposed to be somebody that comes with a vibe? Are you supposed to be somebody that just hold the mic under your chin and just straight talk? I don't know if you're supposed to have a certain kind of comedy.
Right.
You know, because it's like everybody does something different in the comedy world. So what would you consider your comedy to be?
So I always, from the door, I always said I wanted to be clean.
Okay.
I wanted to do clean. I started, but I never wanted to be boxed in as like just a Christian comedian, right?
Okay.
So, because you know you have you have comedians who that's what they do. They just do church.
Okay.
But I've always prided myself on being able to go into any space and just be authentically me.
Okay.
So I always tell people, you have to ask yourself, what's your goal?
Right.
Who do you want to be?
Right.
When you leave that stage, what do you want people to know about you?
Right.
I'm a storyteller. I talk about my real life. I talk about, and one thing I discovered that when you talk about your life, you can't nobody steal
Right.
your stuff.
It's yours.
Because it's yours.
It's about you.
Now, we might have had similar experiences, but I talk about things like my life kind of writes my jokes.
Right.
So when I first started, I was single. I didn't have any kids. I, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself. So if anybody ever followed me from the beginning of my career, I talked about being a single lady. I talked about how my mother was always on me about reproducing, and I was like, those were the basis of my jokes.
Okay.
Then as my life took its own form, my jokes had to change.
Right.
So now I am a mom at 40 years old.
Right.
I'm a homeowner. I'm a wife. These are uncharted territories. And so then the jokes just started coming.
Right.
Like I instantly became like a mother, a wife owner. I mean, a wife, a mother, a dog owner, like all in one time.
Right.
And then I was like, and then I lost my parents like a year apart. So then I became an orphan. Like that's how I felt. Like
Right.
I became an orphan. And so then I started writing about just death and how
Right.
death is a part of life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And finding the funny in
Right.
all of that. So ever since day one, I knew I wanted to just be authentically me and find my voice. I'm going to be honest with you. This year I celebrated 20 years. And I feel like it wasn't until last year that I can now say I am completely comfortable with who GL Douglas is.
Oh, wow.
Took me 19 years
Wow.
to get there.
Wow.
Because there was a time where, and God bless the dead, one of my best friends in comedy, his name is Comedian Lord, a lot of shout out to him in heaven. He used to be like, yo, I used to get to these rooms, especially like rooms that are considered like hood rooms. Because I knew I wasn't going to curse, and I would see everybody kill, they cussing. I'm like, I would be like in the back, like throwing up. And he used to be like, yo, you are funny. And he like, you the only one who don't know how funny you are.
Right.
And he used to tell me, he's like, the day you discover how funny you are and you start believing it, you're going to be unstoppable. And I feel like that happened like last year.
Nice.
Last year.
Nice. So when you say that you're a clean comic, you mean because you don't use profanity with your comedy. Have you ever used profanity, or you just don't use profanity, or you're not a person who curse at all?
Next question. No. I never wanted to be that on stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I remember early in the game, I was talking to a veteran female comedian, and her advice to me was like, you got to be as dirty as you can. You got to curse as much as she was like, that's what you got to do. And I remember sitting there like, really? And I remember that night, I will never forget, Hamburg was hosting the show. She went up there and she bombed. Because everybody don't want to hear that.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Right.
there's a crowd that's what they come for.
Right.
But then there is a crowd that's like, I don't want to go to comedy shows because I don't want to hear all that.
Right.
So I had to figure out, well, let me fill that void.
Right.
Especially as a female comedian. Like, I don't have to be what everybody else is.
Yes. And you know what? The thing with me too, it's crazy, it's strange too, because I don't really curse like that. I'm not a person who curse or use profanity like that. But I have realized in some of my jokes I've had cursed, and I'm like, I don't really want to be known as a comic either that does too much cussing, but I don't want people to think that I won't cuss either. I'm just trying to figure out how not to be so vulgar with some of the things that I say. But sometimes when you're on the stage or you're talking, it kind of make you feel like it works for that kind of joke, certain words, you know, when I am up there. And it's so strange because I tell people too, even with me doing comedy, I've always been a host for the longest. I've just kind of started really getting my foot in the door about 2 years ago with comedy. So some of the stages that I have been on, most of the stages that I have been on is really brand new to me, you know? And so sometimes it's like, I feel like, you know, even with Bob Sumter, like you said, he gave me a few opportunities to shout out to him. But I feel like when I went to Willingboro, like I was telling you, that was actually my first biggest stage that I've ever done. So I didn't know at that time that, because I'm so used to doing intimate comedy and, you know, reaching a crowd right in front of you. And, you know, I never really knew that stages mean a difference. Places mean a different. How you got to stretch your comedy, how you got to do certain things. But when you're called to do it and you get that shot, you know, I'm not thinking to say, oh no, I never did a stage that size, because you won't actually know that until you actually get out there and have some of these experience to know that. But sometimes when you get booked from people, and I think if you don't meet their expectations sometime, you know, it's kind of like a pushback towards you, because, you know, if they are somebody who has been putting people on certain stages and they're looking for you to have your comedy a certain way or stretch it a certain way. With me, I feel like some of that people don't understand. I'm really brand new to the game. You know, I have had a lot of shows where I felt like I have killed it. So when people have seen that where it was more in an intimate setting, it's like, ooh, this girl is bad. But not knowing, and me not knowing, that it is a big difference when you do it different places.
Oh,
so
for
what
sure.
if you're how did you learn that doing comedy in different spaces? Because I've seen you, GL, you are like in stadiums, you are like in, you know, different crowd, different places, different kind of events. And I know every comedy show, or every time a comic do comedy, especially when you're like a comic like us. Like, I feel like we are more like entertainment comedians. Like, I feel like we don't always just go on stage and just hold the mic, because we're booked for different type of events.
Right.
So
Well,
what is the difference? Like the biggest stages or doing different things? How do you maneuver all of them?
So, just know that all of that comes with time, right?
Okay.
All of that comes with time, because comedy is the one thing that you can never take for granted, right? When you walk in, because you could have a killer set on a Monday and then you could be slaughtered with that same set on Tuesday, because it depends on the audience. It depends on, it's a lot of things that you just definitely have to take into consideration. But I would say, yes, doing an intimate crowd is definitely different. Like at a comedy club is different than doing it at a comedy room, which is different than doing it at a theater, which is different than doing it at a banquet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so because I've been doing, I was just having this conversation with my sister on the way here. I said, you know, for me, it's not because I'm not just like a comedy club person. I want to get more into the clubs.
Right.
Because I enjoy clubs.
Right.
Because clubs, people come with the expectation, I come to laugh because I came to a comedy club.
Right.
When you have a room, people come with the expectation like, you better make me laugh. Because when you are doing a banquet, like a pastoral banquet, you're the only comedian there.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't even know that there's comedy to be had.
Right.
So you're surprising them, and sometimes they don't even know how to take it. So you got to fight to get them to see it's okay. Like, this is the assignment. Like, they be like, wait, we here, we dressed up, we ain't here to laugh. And then you got to fight to get that.
Right.
A stage, I literally just did a sold out theater with the Ladies of Laughter last weekend in Mamaroneck. She asked me to headline, and she said to the producer, shout out to Peggy Boyce. She said it's 90% Anglo, right? And now that translates, it's 90% white people.
Right.
Right? So, and I thought it was an honor for her to even think enough for me to close that show. Like, you know, because it's like, typically, like, let's be real, a majority Black audience is not typically going to have a white comedian close unless it is like a Gary Owens or somebody that you know can definitely handle that. So it was kind of like a reverse thing. And when I tell you, I went out there and I slayed, and she said to me, that proved to me that I could put you in front of any audience. Shout out to Welly Jackson, who I see is on. Welly gave me my very first experience in the Midwest. He took me to Boise, Idaho. I didn't even know Black people lived in Boise, Idaho. We did 3 shows out there, and it was predominantly white, but I opened for him. They just called me back in April. I'm going out there to headline my own show out there with them. So I say that to say, like, the more stages you get on, the different types of stages, the more comfortable you become. Because when you're on a huge stage, I feel like I have to be more, because I'm trying to get to the people in the back. Right. When you're in a more intimate setting, there's more conversation that you could have. When I first started, I was an improv. Like, I can, that's what makes me host. Like, I'm like you. I love hosting. My first love. I love to host because I know how to improv. Like, I know how, if something happens, I know how to address it. I know how to keep the show moving. There's some comedians who are wonderful comedians, terrible hosts. Because somebody could catch on fire, but they be like, this is my set, I'm sticking to my set. Here I'm going to say this. That can't happen with hosting. And when you're in more the intimate setting, if somebody sneezes in the middle, you could be like, yo, for real, like, you could talk to them. When you're on a stage, you can't do that. So you have to make sure your material can carry you through that. So, but all of that comes, like I said, with time. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep doing it. You know,
I just think, like I said, because I am fresh out the pack, you know, and I guess, you know, and I am a person who's very naturally funny. I do have, like, most of my comedy too is more about my life or just reality life, or that's why I always call myself an oldies but goodies comic, because I feel like I'm still very old school in my own way. I still could relate to some of the old school. So trying to come over here with the new school stuff, that's why it keeps my comedy where I can always still gravitate to the old school stuff. Because I know some people in the crowd is still very old school. You know, there's a lot of people still trying to get to the new school and don't care about getting to the new school stuff, just like I don't. So because I am very old school at heart like that, that's why I feel like a lot of my comedy is also about me. And I remember you saying to me, and it's funny you said that, because who did I hear on an interview? I think it was Cat Williams. And they asked Cat Williams, how do you get people, what do you look at comics when they come on your show? Like, how do you let them, you know, be one of your openers or however? But he was basically saying that he don't really care about a comedy as long as the audience gets to know who you are. You know, and I said, you know what? It's so crazy because I remember when me and you had a conversation in the and on the phone, you was like, "Who is Tawana?
Right.
What are things about Tawana? You know,
Right.
how are you introducing yourself to the crowd about you to get them
Right.
into you? You know,
Right. Because you gotta connect.
Right.
You gotta, because see, this is where a lot of comics get it mixed up.
Right.
It's not your job, right? It's not your job to go to the audience. Your job is to pull the audience into you. You know what I mean? So, and I was having a conversation with Welly last night, and he said, people like you because they get to know you through my comedy.
Right.
When I leave that stage, people know, A, I'm a mom. I talk about that. B, I'm a wife. I talk about that. C, I'm a teacher. I talk about that. So when I'm a topic of conversation, even if they don't remember my name, they be like, but the teacher comedian
Right.
with the kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they be
Right.
like, oh, GL.
Right.
So when you're up on stage and you're just doing stock jokes or you're just doing whatever, like they don't walk away knowing it might have
Right.
been funny,
Right.
but they're not gonna remember.
Who you are, right?
You know?
But it's so tricky because and that's true though, because a lot of times when I have done comedy, people always come to me and say, "Oh my God, you are so funny! Like you so natural. You're like a Richard Pryor. Like I could relate to everything that you say." But sometimes when I go to different comedy shows that I have been to, I sometimes I'm like, well, what is it? Some of the people who's putting you on the shows that they're looking for, because everybody is doing something so different, and that's where I honestly get a little like just feel like I love doing my own shows because I feel like I could be myself. I feel like it teaches me how to grow into those things more. It helps me interact in, crowds, better. Even with the podcast, I feel like the podcast helped me interact. It helped me communicate. It helps people get to know who I am. I feel like I could also bring my humor here at times too. That's why I love to have like a comic on once a month and plus like, just a regular show. But
I produce shows too,
right?
And that is that's a great thing because a lot of times as comedians, people are waiting for somebody to call you. But if you could create your own space,
right,
you don't have to wait for people to call
right,
you. Then you become the person that calls other people,
right?
Right, and then there's a network that's built. But I will say this, like. I there is value in creating your own show, but there is also value in going out there because when we create,
what I wanted to ask
when we
you
create
too.
our own shows,
right,
we typically have the people that come to support us, right? But you don't want to get so comfortable that your comedy is just conducive to the people that know you already, right? So that's why it's important to network and start getting out in front of other audiences to see like, because I know comedians who are super duper duper funny in New Jersey. Super duper duper funny, and because their material, like if you in New York, if you're in like the hood, they are funny. You can't take them to Tampa, Florida.
Right.
You can't take them to Boise, Idaho with that material because they don't know, like they don't understand that.
Right.
So I've always been like, yeah, I got to write in a way that's universal, that no matter what, if they're black, if they're white, if they're old, if they're young, if they're whatever. I do colleges, which is it's the hardest. That's the first time I saw you.
Yes, that was the first time you actually booked me.
I
now,
did.
Where did you see me at?
Somebody told me about you.
Oh, okay.
I think shout out to Big Mama. I think she recommended.
Okay.
She recommended you to me.
Yeah.
And that was the first time at William Patterson.
And that was my first time even doing a college crowd.
And
I didn't really know what I was doing.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a different beast.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like, some people, you know, you guys had a lot of experience out there, 18 years. You talking about me, I would say, yes, I've been doing comedy for about 8 years, but I would say where I kind of been getting myself a little more grounded, it's only 2. And I thank God, because I feel like even within that little bit of time span, I've been on some stages. You know, people have gravitated to me.
I've watched you grow.
Yeah. And it's really in 2 years, you know? So it's like, sometimes I feel like, am I going to get booked, or is people looking at me because I'm not saying, oh, I've been doing it for 10 years. I've been doing it for 12 years, you know, because you hear that a lot, where a lot of people come from those years experience. Like, I've never really did like open mics. You know what I'm saying? Every comedy stage that I've hit is because I've been booked, or somebody has, you know, referred me to them that has seen me. So I've never really had the practice. That's why sometimes I'm a little worried when I get to do other shows, because I'm just like, and the thing is, I'm not worried as far as like me doing the comedy, because I feel like I have the comedy. I love doing it. I love the stage. I love talking to people. I love bringing people in my world. I love that. But sometimes I'm just like, what is it that people are looking for? Because there's so many different type of comics out here, GL. What is it? Like you said, I feel like with you, people have found that you can do some of mostly all stages, from churches, regular events, like you said, going to other states, doing it in front of other nationalities, you know, because that's a thing to me too. I have did it in front of a different nationality too, and I was surprised that I kind of shook it. But I still don't feel like I'm fully available for certain nationalities, because I'm just like, are they going to be able to connect to my old school comedy? You know, I mean, it happened, but I kind of twisted. Like, when I did do like a kind of white crowd, my jokes was basically like how black people, we don't like to work. Y'all always our supervisors. You know, like, you know, I kind of talked about stuff like that. Like, we don't like to work.
But you know what? And it's so funny, because I literally just had this experience when I just did the Mamaroneck. I did this. I was in my vibe. I was in my groove. And then I did this joke about a wig. Now, again, this is 90% white people. They don't really wear wigs like that. But I did it. I was confident in my delivery. Because it's my experience. And they laughed, right? And I stopped in the middle of the show, and I was like, I was really worried about doing that joke, because I didn't think you guys was going to get that. And they laughed even more, because that was me telling the honest to God truth. Like, I was leery about doing the joke because I didn't think you could connect, but you did. And then I was like, shout out to the DEI or something. Like, I was like, you know, and I was like, give it up for yourselves for being so diverse. So they laughed at that, because it was like, that is the truth. I'm going to tell you, and I used to share this story when I really realized, like, I became like a comedian, right? There was this, I can't even remember his name, but again, I was with Lord, and he's like, come with me to this show. And I was like, all right. It was in Newark, the hood. It was a dark, desolate place. We had to walk up a fire escape, right? We had to walk up a fire escape to get into this place. When you get there, the walls were painted black. You caught a contact immediately when you walked in, because everybody was like smoking. And it was either 1 or 2 people in there, either while you had just got home or you was on your way to jail. That was the audience, right? That was the audience. And I'm standing there with my pocketbook. I'm like, why are we even here? So the host, he was a little perturbed with me, because me and Lord used to host a room called Mangoes. And the week before he came, he didn't do well. As a host, I had to address it, whatever. And so he comes to me. He was like, you want to do some time, GL? Right. But he was trying to do it like he was not genuinely offering me this. It was kind of like, I know this ain't your crowd. I want to watch you take this L, just like I took the L at Just Spot, right? And Lord goes to me, you never turn down a mic. Never turn down a mic. He was like, he wants you to do time, you do time. And I'm like, you know, I can't do this. He's like, do it. You don't turn down a microphone. This is what you say you're going to do. This is who you are. Every comedian that went on that stage died a horrible death. A horrible death, right? And so then it kind of made me feel better because I'm like, yo, I'm about to go up here and die too. So, but everybody has died. So
it won't be that bad.
It won't be that bad because it's like everybody dying, right? I went up there and I swear I had my pocketbook on me and I stood there and I was like, I'm not supposed to be here, right? They started cracking up because they knew I was uncomfortable and I'm acknowledging I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
And I was like, I live in Rahway. And I was like, a lot of you probably are familiar with it, like Rahway Prison. They were like, and then, I mean, at that moment, it was like, yo, don't try to be who you're not.
Right.
Be who you are. You don't belong here.
Right.
I said at any moment, I'm sure the cops are coming to shut this place down.
Right.
They're like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I had the best set of the night. Do you know those people stood up and gave me a standing ovation when I got off the stage? And then they was like, oh, the bartender want to meet you. It was Rod Digger. Rod Digger from Flipmode Squad was the bartender. And everybody was coming up and it was like, yo, what are you? When you coming back? I was like, never. I'm never coming back. Like,
and that's the thing, too.
I'm never coming back here.
That's the thing, too. Sometimes, like, you walk in these rooms, you have your jokes that you want to talk about, but sometimes where you're at, you could kind of...
You got to read the room.
You got to read the room. You could bounce off you and read the crowd. Now, do you write, GL, or do you...
I'm going to be honest, like, I do need to be more disciplined with, like, sitting down at my notepad, writing. Right. A lot of my jokes, like I said, because a lot of it just comes from real world experiences, and because I host a lot, a lot of times my jokes just, like, take on, like, I'll say something, I'll be like, oh, that worked. And then I'll, in my head, I'll keep it, and then I just start building upon it. You know what I mean? So, right now, I feel like I could, honestly, and I have to do it when I go to Boise, I'm slated to do like 45, 50 minutes. Okay. And I feel like I could confidently give you a solid 50 minutes or whatever.
Nice.
I feel like I'm at that point. Okay. But and now I'm also at the point was like, yeah, I'm ready to like, because there's certain jokes that people just request. They be like, you gotta do that joke. And I be like, you know. But then there's jokes that's like, all right, I'm tired of doing that. And I remember I was with this comedian that I really respected, and she hadn't seen me in a while. A Christian comic. She hadn't seen me in a while, and she was like, oh, I like that joke. And I was like, oh, I don't even do that joke anymore. She was like, oh, look at you. You don't do that joke, so you could just throw jokes away. And in my head, I'm like, but isn't that the goal?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that the goal to be like, I don't do that anymore because I do this now. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to, and I think a lot of times, especially like more seasoned comedians, sometimes they get stuck in a rut and they just, you know, they're scared to like try the new material. But that's where your open mics come in, which, you know, I host the open mic. That's where like now I'm in my phone, I'll write certain things, like I'll put it in my phone and I'll be like, I'll just try it.
Now, I never did an open mic. Do you feel like an open mic?
You never came to my open mic with me and Bob?
No.
Really?
No. Now, is open mics, do they still give you that vibe, you know, that you can kind of vibe up before you get on the stage, or is it just more you go up there, you just stand and you just start talking?
I guess it depends. I'm going to be honest, I don't do a lot of open mics now anymore. I now, like I said, Bob Sumner and I, we run an open mic now, which is about to start back again next month. But I don't do a lot. I haven't, only, and not because I'm above open mics. I am not that. It's just that between my job, like I have a full-time job, my kids, my husband, me really being booked, it's hard. Like when I leave out the door, it got to make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be leaving for, like, a purpose. You know what I mean? Because my time is, like...
I do want to try it out. I do want to try it out. It just sounds like open mic just feel like it's like a crowd that's coming to, like, stare at you, and you better know what you know, you better say something funny. So,
But, I mean, a true open mic is not about you doing your material that's going to kill.
right.
Because you've already mastered that.
Right.
Like, so I'm not going to go to an open mic and do the jokes that I've been doing for 10 years. Because
Okay.
I know that works.
So you want to try
The
something
open
different.
mic is, okay, let me pull out my phone and try the joke that I wrote down when I was in a grocery store. And I
Right.
just want to see, let me work out the timing. Let me work out the delivery.
Or can you do it to get your jokes stronger and stretch
Right.
them more to
Right.
learn other things that you can
Right.
kind of put in there?
And
with
one of the
it?
things that Bob and I do at our open mic, we provide feedback, right?
Right.
So a comic could get up there and they'll bring their notebooks and they'll write. I remember this one guy, he had this joke and it was talking about a thug wearing flip-flops, right? He's like, can't be a thug and wear flip-flops or whatever. And then the joke, it was, to me, that's funny within itself.
Right.
And then he like just left it. And then I got back, I said, what you need to do is add a sound effect, like you walking off, like He was like, oh. I said, yeah, that's what's gonna take it to
Right.
another level. So if you get with the right open mic,
Right.
you get comics
Feedback, right.
feedback and tell you should add this, you should say this, or you should link.
Right.
You know, that's should be the point of an open mic.
Well, I want to shout out our viewers on Facebook.
Oh,
Shout out all our viewers on Facebook. Comedian Michelle Benson.
Hey, Michelle.
Comedian Ron Snipes.
Hey, Ron.
Got my mommy Debbie, my daughter Dennis Double D, my uncle Reggie, Barbara,
Double D.
Lawanda, Jacqueline, Debria, who's my baby girl, Audra, Sunshine.
Oh, that's my friend.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Jacqueline,
Yes.
Piff, Bo Jackson.
That's my boo. That's my husband. Shout out to my husband.
Okay.
Pia, that's my boo.
Okay.
Yes.
Audra, Sunshine.
Yes, that's my friend. That's my
Okay.
yes. So.
Shout out to the GLOs.
Yes.
The
and
GLOs.
I got some people on here too.
Oh, okay.
My sister, Yvette, and my coworker, Laura.
Okay.
Hey, shout out to everybody.
All right.
Thank y'all.
So, GL, tell us what could we, because we got to kind of get it wrapped up now. The hour always goes so fast.
that was been an hour. Wow.
Yeah, but I always tell, my audience, you're welcome to come back and we can
Yeah.
finish chopping it up. But what can we look forward?
So this is what I really need all the listeners. So
Okay.
so I'm really excited. This Saturday I
Okay.
am doing this. Apparently everybody's excited about this show. It's called the Jersey Love Comedy Show.
Okay.
It's right there in Jersey City, which
Okay.
is Jersey City Stand Up. I'm a Jersey City / Roselle girl, right?
Okay.
I teach in Jersey City, went to church in Jersey City, grew up. And so on this particular show, it's myself, it's Monique Latisse,
Okay.
it's Low Cash, it's Artie Fuqua, headlining is TK Kirkland, Jersey
Okay.
City's own TK Kirkland, and hosting is Bill Bellamy. So that's exciting.
Okay.
And I'm really honored to be a part of that show because, out of anybody, the fact that they called me, that was really dope. But I am also a producer, right?
Okay.
I produce my own show. So I hate the stigmatism that women are not funny because I know some of the funniest women, like, we are funny. So March 15th,
Okay.
myself and with my business partner, Marquise from Bumper to Bumper, we're producing a show at the movie theater
Okay.
in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's at Jersey Gardens, and
Okay.
it's March 15th. It's myself. Talent is hosting. Shout out to comedian Talent. He's the only guy on the show.
Okay.
It's me, Big Mama, Joanne Ash, Just Pam, and headliner is one of my faves, B Flat, all the way from Philly. So
Okay,
I
nice.
love B Flat. I remember watching her on Comic View and just And when I met her, I was just in awe. And she's a really nice, down-to-earth person. So I need everybody, all of my, if y'all don't come to nothing else, please come March 15th. I need to sell this out. We have 270 seats. It's a movie theater. Get your concessions and come through.
All right. So if there was anything that you would like to tell another comic to a comic, which would be me, that would be very inspirational or something to keep me going in the game, what would you say to me? Or us?
Let me look in the camera. I would say this. Listen, if you feel like this is what you are supposed to do it. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to bomb. You're going to walk away some nights like, why am I even doing this? But if you feel like this is the purpose, you feel like this is what God's called you to do, you got to keep doing it. And then find out who you want to be on stage. The actress, I asked you that before. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to be? Mm-hmm. And find that voice and commit to that voice. Don't waver. Don't feel like, oh, this audience, I want to be this person. Or this audience, I feel like I need to be this person. Be who you're going to be in the audience. They'll adapt to you. My sister bought me a sweater that said, be you, they'll adjust. Nice. And I love that hoodie.
Nice.
I think it's too small now, car wash, but I like that hoodie. It says, be you, they'll adjust. Mm-hmm. And that's my advice to comedy. Be you, and the audience will adjust.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Gia.
Put that on the sweater for myself.
Right. Now, can you tell our followers where they can follow you at in case they want to book you or keep up with all your shows that you do? Because let me tell y'all, GL is very big in the game. Aww. This is definitely one of my ace boo cool.
Yes.
I love GL. I just feel like when we met, we just connected.
We did.
And I feel like in any kind of just in life, period, you gotta make great connections with people. That definitely matters. Great connections, just meeting people that.
And can I say one thing about that?
Mm-hmm.
One more thing that I would share.
Yeah.
Lord used to tell me this all the time. It's called show business, right? Some people got the show, but they don't have the business. And when I say the business, that means show up on time. Mm-hmm. That means do your time. Don't disrespect the light.
Right.
That means don't be a jerk to other comics.
Right.
That means be nice to people. Mm-hmm. How you act off stage matters just as much as what you do on stage. If you're trying to do long term.
Right.
Because there are some comedians right now, I think they're funny, but I'm not booking them.
Right.
Because I don't like your ads. I don't like the vibe.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they're, and it's not about being cocky.
Right.
Just understand, just be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but you asked where to follow me. I'm sorry. Facebook, GL Douglas. No periods. I got to shut that other page down. But GL, like gorgeous lady, Douglas, and on Instagram, comedian GL Douglas. So follow me.
Well, thank you so much, GL Douglas, for coming here to be a part of Shady Talk Wednesday podcast today. You were very informative. Be connected. I got to get you back here though, because I know it's so much more.
It is a lot.
I know it's so much more, and I know the hour is just never ever enough.
Yes.
And I know there's so much more, because even how you said, what do GL stands for? Gorgeous lady.
I just made that up. But my real name is Georgette LaTanya Douglas.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, okay, that's cute. I'm like, we didn't even get into how we get to what does the initial GL
I tell
stand
people
for.
God's love.
Okay.
God's love. Gorgeous lady. But it's really Georgette LaTanya.
Okay, well, that's cute. That's cute, because I'm like, wait a minute. I should have asked her, what did GL? Because, a lot of comics have different names, so different little nicknames, initials, or whatever. But they all fit you, GL. And I thank you so much again for coming on Shady Talk Wednesday. I want to thank you in public for always booking me for things, always thinking of me, even having me host your 20th.
Yes, you did a great job.
20th anniversary for being in comedy. I thank you so much. And we are we are going to stay connected. And
We
I
are.
wish you so much more success out there.
Thank
You
you.
are amazing on stage. Every time I see you, everywhere you go, every audience you get in front of, I'm just like, GL is just that girl.
Oh, thank you.
really
I
are.
appreciate
So,
it.
thank
You're making
you.
me blush.
No, but you
Thank
are,
you.
GL. You are. You know, I talk to a lot of comics. I see a lot of comics, and I'm definitely all girl power. But I always like to tell women, you know, the truth that I see. You know, it's not to big up or not to put anybody else down. But I'm okay with being very real and honest and raw and telling another female that they are definitely dope. And
Thank
you
you.
are. You are,
Thank
GL.
you.
And
As are you.
Thank
Thank
you.
As are you. And you know, I'm always one of those people. If I don't think you could do it, I'm not gonna call you.
Right.
So when I call you, I understand. I believe that
Right.
you can get it done, and you're doing it. And just stay with
Right.
it. Stay positive, and keep doing it.
And
So,
I love that because I know that you believe in me and what I'm doing.
Yes.
I know because of how I see what you do. So
Thank
that's the
you.
only way I'm going to be able to get a little piece of, you know, be on your sideline. But thank you so much once again, GL. I'm definitely going to have you come back. Thank you for coming on Shady Talk Wednesday. Comedian GL.
thank you. That was fun.